An arrogant waiter belittles a customer without knowing that he is Clint Eastwood. An unforgettable lesson awaits him. How will he deal with this? Hello, I bring you another unusual story about celebrities. It's called Waiter Treats Clint Eastwood Badly Without Knowing That He Was. It was a busy night in Carmel by the Sea, a picturesque little town in California, where tourists and locals gathered in bars and restaurants to enjoy the fresh ocean breeze. The Mission Ranch, one of the most traditional establishments in the area, was crowded. Among the customers, a man of discreet presence entered the restaurant, wearing worn jeans, leather boots, and an old coat. His face, marked by time, carried a serene but determined look. The waiter in charge of that section was Tony, an ambitious and impatient young man who despised any customer who did not appear to be a big spender. He looked at the newcomer with disdain and rolled his eyes before approaching. "What would you like?" he asked, without enthusiasm, drumming his fingers on the table. The man looked up calmly at Tony and with a slight smile replied, "A whiskey, neat, and a rare steak." Tony let out an exaggerated sigh. "Are you sure? Our meat is expensive. Maybe a burger would be more your style." The customer raised an eyebrow, surprised by the waiter's tone, but said nothing. He just smiled and nodded. "Don't worry about me, boy. I know exactly what I want." Tony huffed and left, grumbling under his breath. The restaurant was still full, and he was busy serving other customers, being overly polite to those who sported expensive jewelry and suits, while showing impatience with those who seemed more modest. When he brought the order, he dropped the plate on the table without ceremony. The whiskey, which should have come in a crystal glass, was served in a regular glass. "There you go," Tony said, already walking away. "Wait," the customer called, his voice low but firm. Tony stopped, irritated. "Is there a problem?" "Yes." "This is not the right glass for a good whiskey," the man replied, swirling the yellowish liquid calmly. "And the service, well, let's just say it could be better." Tony crossed his arms. "Look, sir, we're busy. If you're not satisfied, there are other places in town where you can eat." The man just laughed, picked up the glass and took a sip. Then he looked directly at Tony and said, "Do you like your job, son?" Tony laughed derisively. "I wasn't born for this. This place just pays my bills until I get something better." The man nodded thoughtfully. "Interesting. And what would you do if you lost this job today?" Tony was disconcerted for a moment, but soon regained his composure. "Don't worry about it, Uncle. The manager likes me. I have the job guaranteed." The man smiled again and took another sip of his whiskey. Then, without haste, he stood up and walked toward the counter, where the manager, a man in his 50s, was polishing a glass. As soon as he saw him, the manager smiled and greeted him respectfully. "Mr. Eastwood, what an honor to have you here tonight," he exclaimed. Tony froze. Clint Eastwood, the legendary actor and director, and, most importantly, the owner of the Mission Ranch. Tony's blood ran cold as he watched his boss greet the man with a firm handshake. Eastwood smiled and glanced sideways at Tony, who now felt his legs weaken. "I was talking to this young man here," Clint said. "He's ambitious. He wants something better than waiting tables. But I think he's forgotten the importance of treating people with respect." The manager frowned and looked at Tony, who had gone pale. "Mr. Eastwood, I'm sorry. I didn't know it was you." Tony began stuttering. Clint raised his hand, interrupting him. "The problem isn't with me, son. The problem is that you treat people based only on their appearance, and that's a serious mistake." Tony lowered his head, speechless. "You're fired," the manager said dryly. Tony's eyes widened. "No, wait! Please! I need this job!" Clint looked at him for a long time before saying, "Needing something doesn't give you the right to disrespect others. But..." He paused, thoughtfully. "Everyone deserves a second chance. If you want, you can start over, but the right way. Tony, overcome with shame, nodded quickly. Yes, sir, I do. And I'm sorry about before. I was an idiot. Clint smiled slightly. You don't need to apologize to me. But remember, always treat people well, no matter who they are. Because one day, the unknown in front of you may be the one that decides your future. That night, Tony learned a lesson he would never forget. And for the first time, he understood that a real man is not measured by the money in his pocket, but by the respect he offers to others. The next morning, Tony arrived at Mission Ranch earlier than usual. He wore an impeccably pressed shirt and had a determined expression on his face. After the humiliation of the previous night, he knew he needed to prove to himself and to Clint Eastwood that he was capable of change. Entering the kitchen, he found the manager, who watched him for a moment before giving a slight nod. Good morning, Tony. Ready for a fresh start? Tony took a deep breath and nodded. Yes, sir. The manager pointed to the service area. Very good. Start by organizing the tables and make sure every detail is impeccable. Tonight we are having a special event, and I want everything to be perfect. Tony accepted the task without hesitation. As he arranged the cutlery and polished the crystal glasses, he felt someone looking at him. Looking up, he saw Clint Eastwood watching him from the corner of the room. The actor and director didn't say anything. He just nodded slightly before leaving. As night fell, the restaurant began to fill with guests. The special event was a benefit dinner to raise funds for local artists. Among those present, businessmen, writers, and film figures circulated around the hall, exchanging stories and toasting art. Tony, now more attentive, treated everyone with courtesy and professionalism. At one point, an elderly gentleman entered the restaurant, wearing a worn-out suit jacket, and sat down in a discreet corner. Other waiters seemed to ignore him, but Tony would not repeat his mistake. He approached, and with a genuine smile asked, "Good evening, sir. What would you like to drink?" The man looked up, surprised by the attention, and smiled. "A red wine, please. The house one is great." Tony nodded and brought the drink with all the attention he gave to the other customers. Minutes later, Clint Eastwood approached the table and greeted the elderly man enthusiastically. "Good to see you here, John." Tony's eyes widened. John? John Huston, the legendary director and screenwriter? The young waiter swallowed hard as he realized he had just served another cinema icon without even realizing it. Clint turned to Tony and smiled. "See? You never know who's sitting at the table, but I think you get the lesson now." Tony smiled back, this time with confidence. "Yes, sir. I think I learned the best way." And that night he realized that every person, regardless of their looks or bank account, deserved respect. After all, as Clint had said before, the unknown in front of him could be the one that decided his future. And this was another one of those unusual stories about celebrities. I liked the video, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell so I don't miss any videos. Leave your opinion in the comments, like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Join our channel group. I'll leave the link in the description and in the pinned comment. I'll leave it here and see you next time.